Hey, welcome back to the Science Fictionary podcast, everybody. We got Ro here with us tonight.
Yay!
Woo-hoo! And Daniel.
Hey.
And we're going to talk about the Hawkeye season finale. Or series finale, or what do we think there? Do we think it's a series finale or a season finale? I mean, obviously they're going to do something with Kate Bishop, but does she just translate directly into the movies from here, or
does Hawkeye continue?
I have no idea. I don't think.
I think Hawkeye continues. I think we get a season 2 of Hawkeye.
Well, I guess
a lot of different directions with it.
As a tag on to that question, is Jeremy Renner done?
Yes, I think so. That series is it's a good send off for him, and he's obviously passing the torch to Kate. I think he's done. I think that was the intention.
Marisha?
I mean, probably. It makes me a little sad, I'm not going to lie. I've really enjoyed Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye.
I actually think that it's not the last time we see Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye, but I don't want to jump too far ahead into the notes as to why I think that. But, Ro, what about you?
Yeah, I'm hearing programming in my ear like 7 seconds delayed.
Oh, that's not good.
And I'm trying to figure out. I don't have any other YouTube channel open here. Wow, that's
not the best.
Well, I want to see if I have any other windows open, but I don't. But anyways, as far as your question, going into the series, I didn't really know what to expect. I'm going to have to take this off for a second. Going into the series, I didn't know what to expect, but I was really, I really loved the show. It was one of those things that I was pleasantly surprised. Hawkeye is probably my least favorite Avengers for many reasons. I think one of the reasons is, he's got a stick and a bow and an arrow. No superpowers, but I think they did a really great job of, endearing him, especially the way Jeremy Renner portrays Hawkeye. I think he did a really good job, and I watched him in other stuff. He's one of those actors that, again, he's not a big draw for me, but obviously the Avengers. I mean, he works as an ensemble cast member, which is great. I've seen him in some other stuff lately, which he's becoming a favorite. So I'm really happy that they did this. As far as seeing him again, he'll probably return as Hawkeye. I don't know about a season 2, but obviously Kate Bishop is around, and we still have some nice stories to tell. So I think it'll be good.
Awesome. Well, as we kind of jump in, so from there, that's just kind of where I wanted to open up, but we'll kind of go back to the beginning of the episode. I do want to say hello to Lunar Girl and Chantel and Nick, all in the chat tonight.
Yay.
The usual suspect.
Yep. Thank you for joining us tonight. But so let's talk about the opening scene. We all kind of questioned how much Kingpin we would see. There was a lot of people that thought we would just see him kind of, briefly, get a glimpse, maybe even in the after credits. But we opened up on Kingpin.
That was pretty fast, yeah.
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 So what did y'all think about Kingpin here as opposed to Kingpin in the Netflix series?
It's this.
Don't say it, Daniel. Don't say it.
He was kind of toned down a little bit, if that makes any sense. It's obviously the same actor. We hope it's the same character. Actually, let's just go ahead and which we've always said, we felt like the MCU could do that without even addressing it. Let's just sort of ignore all that. Here's your characters. and I do think D'Onofrio is trying to portray the same character there, but he also did sort of feel kind of toned down, if that makes any sense. I don't know if y'all agree or not. He wasn't quite as that over the top sort of demented we saw in Daredevil. Like, he didn't quite seem as unhinged, if that makes any sense.
Do you think that is a Disney situation, or do you think it's a character moment where maybe he's softened up because, after losing his wife in the Daredevil series, he might...
I think he was probably asked to do that to fit the tone of this series better.
The thing is, though, the way people talk about him, I think that we are meant to know that he's still capable of all those things. It's like, you may not see it on screen today, but just keep all of that in mind, that's still the same person. He's scary. Everybody's scared of him for a reason. Not just because he might send a hitman after you, but because he might, beat you to death with a car door.
Yeah.
Right.
But no, I think Chantel's right. I think the plot didn't really call for seeing that brutality. And also, it's on Disney Plus. They're not going to show that on Disney Plus.
Right. Well, I have, there's some other interesting thoughts there. I'm for one, I see Chantel saying that D'Onofrio has confirmed that it's the same Kingpin. I don't know, honestly, though, there's nothing to stop them from changing that.
Sure.
And honestly, if it was different, I don't even know if that's a discussion they would have had with him. If they basically, just because we're talking, if we're talking multiverse, the two characters could still be identical.
Yeah.
So I don't know that it even matters. I'm kind of with Daniel. We've kind of discussed this before, and I do think that to some extent, you don't really have to spend much time addressing it, if at all.
Right.
You just kind of go. The only problem is you can't really call back. You can call back to it, but you can't use any footage from those Netflix series. That is property of Netflix. So I'm still not totally convinced. I almost want it to be a different Kingpin. He could be the exact same Kingpin. I want it to be a different Kingpin for starters because I want a different Iron Fist. Because if we're going to say all this is canon... No, wait, because are we going to say the Defenders is not? Because there is a crossover. I want Iron Fist in the MCU. And I don't want that Iron Fist.
I do too, but you can still have it be the same characters, recast the actor, and do what you're doing with all the rest of them, and just kind of brush everything you saw in Netflix to the side and go in his own direction, and that can feel like a different character. Just changing the actor will freaking help. So you're going to get your wish. They're not recasting Finn Jones. They're not rehiring Finn Jones. If we get Iron Fist, he's going to be recast.
The thing is I think that if you're doing this, I think the only two people who've really shown any interest in coming back are the two, are Kingpin and Daredevil. Nobody else has really shown any interest in coming back. You're going to recast everybody?
If you have to, the first phone call. All right, so you've already got D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox. The next phone call you need to make is to Kristen Ritter, 100%. And if she doesn't want to do it, we'll find another Jessica Jones. You attempt to get the actors you still want to keep. They did great jobs in those roles. Kristen Ritter is listed right off the page for that.
She was fine, but the show wasn't very good. Neither was Luke Cage, and those three shows. When you take,
I'll give you Luke Cage. I wasn't a huge fan. I was very lukewarm on Luke Cage. I loved that Jessica Jones series.
The thing is I will watch any of those series, but I never even bothered watching the last season of Luke Cage or Jessica Jones. I just didn't care anymore.
But you watched the last season of Iron Fist?
The last season of but
Mike drop.
But there's a reason. Iron Fist dropped, and then they killed the whole Netflix deal. So we had Iron Fist while it was still all going on at Netflix. The other two came out after they had already killed the whole universe.
Yeah.
Like, why watch it when it's the end? See, that's the thing is, like, I will say that Daredevil is the best comic book to small screen interpretation of comic book character ever made. And I will say that the Punisher's not far behind it.
I didn't even finish Punisher. It just got so slow in the middle.
Punisher was so dark that it was
really dark.
like kind of got to be, you had to kind of trudge through it. I like the character. I like the thing they did. I think is like, I just think that's that character. I don't know how interesting that character is on his own.
Correct. Well, no.
Who, Punisher?
Like you
Punisher.
said, it got so dark, but you can't do Punisher right without him being that bloody and brutal.
No, and I'm not talking about the bloody and brutal. I'm talking about the middle of that show where it was so slow. But that was the problem with all the Netflix shows was that, yeah. Well, no, season 1 had some moments too where it just got real slow in the middle. But Punisher never worked better than he did in Daredevil season 2.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
And I put those two shows way up there and everything else way underneath it.
I think for me, Iron Fist was like the bottom of the totem pole. And I trudged along. I trudged along that series just to see, well, is his character going to change? Is he actually going to like fist some iron somewhere or something? I mean, I didn't get it. And I really,
The only thing worth watching in that show was Colleen Wing.
yes.
She was great.
She was fantastic.
And they were trying to give us a Daughters of the Dragon show. You could see them set that up, but of course the deal that would have been good. I kept hoping with Iron Fist that it would get better when and if they put he and Luke Cage together like permanently.
Right.
We got a Players for Hire show. I kept hoping Mike Coulter was good enough Luke Cage that it would elevate, what Finn Jones was doing, but we never did get the opportunity to see that. That show was so disappointing. And you can ask Andrew. Iron Fist is one of those characters that is up here for me.
Well, we had been talking about an Iron Fist series for 20 years.
I was so disappointed.
I almost felt like the production people told Finn Jones to tone it down for some reason, and that's why I kept watching it, because I thought like they were building him up for something. They were building him up for a character moment that would surpass what he was like struggling with internally, but it just never panned out. It never happened all the way through the end. He just got his ass kicked and never really let loose, and it was just a mystery to me.
They never got the character right, and I honestly, I put a whole lot of the blame on Finn Jones. And you hear stuff now about how unprepared he was. He didn't want to actually learn the martial arts. He didn't want to do any choreography. He just sort of lazily went at this role, and it shows.
It's too bad.
Exactly
it's too
what
bad.
happened. He just didn't,
Wow.
He just didn't care.
Yeah. Which is a shame.
Yeah.
So I'm the only one, I guess, that has absolutely no problem if this ends up being I don't see what difference it makes if it's an alternate reality.
Well, I just don't think we need to address it all. We just let Vincent D'Onofrio portray the character the same way he did in the show, and just go forward, and everything's good.
Andrew, you're saying that you don't mind if Kingpin is an alternate universe Kingpin, because obviously I've read some stuff on Twitter about that. But there's also the question of what happened to him towards the end, at the end of the episode. So there's a question there after you hear, and I guess we'll get to it. But you might have a case for that, depending on how we interpret that last scene with him and what's her name.
Right. Now, I did love, they do such a great job shooting Kingpin, the way they shoot him with an upward angle just to make him look bigger and more menacing. I I don't know how y'all felt about one thing I love about this series is so many things that they just pulled straight from the pages of comic books. Down to the white suit with the Hawaiian shirt.
Yes, yeah, I love that.
And of course, Vincent D'Onofrio was born to play the role.
Yeah.
Everything down to the eye twitch. He just looks a little unhinged. Now, as far as him being more toned down, which we already discussed, the D'Onofrio has talked about this on a couple of interviews now, and essentially said that his character has lost a lot of his power in the city during the blip.
Okay.
That he is this kind of that speech he gives about reminding people whose city this is. I think that this is the beginning of him trying to reclaim his throne.
Yeah.
So I do think part of why he's toned down a little is that he's just he's not ramped up, and I felt like they ramped it up through the episode. The just sort of unhinged character. But I love a lot of things about this. I mean, this show has always been built on the backs of things like Home Alone, Die Hard. Which, I mean, what is Home Alone if not Die Hard for kids anyway? But
That's true.
But they used a lot of the same things that Chris Columbus did with the look of Home Alone, with the way they offset the red and green. I mean, it's Christmas, there's going to be red and green, but they did some things that were very specifically imitating Home Alone.
And the soundtrack, I mean, the Home Alone soundtrack is very Tchaikovsky, and so is this one. It's very, lots of Nutcracker references in it.
But I love the scene. I mean, what I was really referencing with the Home Alone thing is very much the building the arrowheads, preparing for, the battle. And what did y'all think about that scene? The scene we kind of get with Clint and Kate and specifically the conversation that they have where, Clint finally says, "You're my partner. Your mess is my mess." And Kate gets this moment to tell him why he's her hero.
Yes.
Which I think is it was a wonderful scene, and I think it was a really important scene for Clint.
Clint, I was about to say, Clint needed that.
Yeah.
We've watched him ever since Endgame go through this deal of struggling sort of with that darkness that he has. And I mean, that was his job before the Avengers. He was a trained killer for the government. He was an assassin. That's what he did.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the things he did as Ronin and just sort of dealing with this. But, it was an important moment for him that he had that validation that he could be a hero to someone, and he did deserve it.
Yeah.
And like you tell, it's, and I have really enjoyed the fact that Hawkeye's Kate's hero from the start.
Right.
Because, like Rose said earlier, and you and I have talked about, the three of us, Hawkeye never got a whole lot he never really got his due through the films.
Right.
Right.
The most representation he got was in Age of Ultron.
Mm-hmm.
He just didn't he never really got his due. So to see it in universe, that there are people in the universe that do look up to and respect Clint as a hero was important, and I love that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think this series really humanized Hawkeye in a way that the actual movies didn't. And obviously he's working with an ensemble cast, he's working as a team member, but the series really, brought him down to earth. And, again, not having any superpowers or, robot arms or anything like that, it's actually what I was looking for in the series going into it. I didn't, I didn't know what to expect, but I'm really happy that that this relationship with Kate kind of developed, and I saw the change. Like Daniel was saying, the fact that he said, you are my partner, and I think that was really great. I mean, overall, it was just a really fun series to watch.
Yeah,
it was. They captured the tone right. And
yeah.
It's exactly the show you thought it was going to be from the trailers, and it never missed a beat. They did a very good job keeping that tone where they want it and keeping it entertaining through the whole series.
And the pacing was good. The pacing was really consistent.
I think that is probably, among a lot of things that this show deserves a lot of credit for. One of the things that we find ourselves complaining about a lot of these comic book TV series, whether it be the Netflix series or the other MCU series, has been pacing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just an incredibly well-paced series from start to finish.
It is.
Like we said, when they stop for a big moment, they don't let it bog down the episode.
Right.
Like you get it, and it's still in.
It's the one series I would have liked to have been 12 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But how many were there? 6?
6.
But that, and this is, I'm wondering too if they're learning too, because we talked about the Punisher series just dragging in the middle, and those are the types of shows that they're like 12 episodes, and you really could have told that story in like 8. Yep. So I think it's better wanting more from these shows than saying, all right, enough is enough. And if that's the case, I think you're right. I think they nailed it. We want more. It was pretty concise. Their storytelling, their pacing. I think it's fantastic. I think it's great.
Yeah. Dave's got a comment here, and this is why I've always been a Hawkeye fan. Like, this is what I love about the character, is that he's just a guy, and he's out there fighting alongside these super-powered people. It's the same thing you love about somebody like Black Widow.
Mm-hmm.
Or Broom Boy.
Or Broom Boy, exactly.
Yes.
But
sorry, Daniel.
I do like Broom Boy for that reason, because anybody can be a Jedi. Jedi can come anywhere. You ain't got to be special. It's the only thing about that movie I like. Is
if only we didn't have to go to Canto Bight to do that.
To learn that, exactly.
No, that movie does give you that message. It's the only thing about that movie I like. But anyway, we're way off track now.
But it is it was a good message. I think, having him star in his own series, like I said, I didn't know what was going to happen. But he's just a regular dude who fought alongside, gods and et cetera, et cetera. Yep. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And whenever Hawkeye was when they're like, oh, we've got Wanda, we've got Loki, and somebody would say, and Hawkeye, and it's like, okay, yeah, whatever. I always liked Hawkeye fine, but the idea of a Hawkeye TV show is just like, come on now, what on earth are we going to do for 8 episodes? It didn't turn out to be 8 episodes, but it's like, we're really going to watch him, make, jabs about how he's got a bow and the city's flying. None of this makes any sense. Like, how long can you keep that shtick up? But they did. And that's impressive.
Yeah. God.
It says Daniel needs reading glasses.
No, I'm out of contact. So yeah, I've been squinting for about a month. The storm destroyed my doctor's office.
Oh.
Okay, that's a good excuse.
There are eye doctors in Natchez. Come to Natchez to the eye doctor.
But kind of, wrapping that scene, kind of moving from there. I love watching the building, the airs. I love seeing that he's got more Pym tech. He's still holding back some Stark tech.
Right.
I love seeing all of that. But we kind of jump from there to 30 Rock. We're going to 30 Rockefeller Center for a Christmas party. We open up with the Christmas music that kind of calls back, I think kind of calls back to Die Hard, when you see Hans Gruber and his group come in with the Christmas music, and Daniel's rolling his eyes, but that's all right. It's every single episode of this show has at least one direct Die Hard reference.
Well, but they referenced more than just. I mean, they played the music from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation in the last episode.
Oh, did they really? I didn't realize that.
They just. It's a Christmas show. They made all kinds of Christmas references. I am happy that this show just openly admits that Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Yeah. But we've got everybody showing up. We've got a lot of tracksuit bros showing up. Mm-hmm. We've got Elena in her green coat showing up at the party.
That coat was fabulous. I kind of wanted that coat.
They've just done a really good job with her because it's like Black Widow. I mean, the wardrobe is, the costume is fairly simple, right? Mm-hmm. So they've done a good job of doing things to kind of dress it up, with the hair or with the
hair was weird.
Well,
the hair was weird.
They do a good job also, though, with she's not the same character. She's don't try to make her Natasha at all.
Right.
And I love that too. We're not just replacing that Black Widow character with another Natasha. She is her own person.
Yeah.
She got her own personality. She got her own fashion sense. All of
and her own quirks.
Yeah, she's a very different person.
I wanted that green coat.
Yeah, she's a very different person, and she's not as broken as Natasha.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the LARPers.
The LARPers are there undercover. I love that Clint. I mean, the thing is if Clint is the guy that would be the leader if you didn't have Tony Stark or Captain America. It's like, and I believe, he even becomes director of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the comics in some of the runs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the character's always been a guy that has been used as a leader off and on. But what did y'all think about the Christmas party scene? I mean, just the initial part, everybody's there, everybody's showing up. I love the way they shot. I love the rolling shots, the panning shots through the building with both Qazi shooting at Clint and then later the shot with Elena and Kate with their fight.
Yeah.
One of the things that this series really does well is the fight choreography.
Agreed.
It's something that, obviously Daredevil has its moments. Some of the fight
choreography in Iron Fist.
Well, that's what I was getting to. Iron Fist, again, it was like just that whole series was just like, somebody said, let's do this series, but let's tie everybody's hands behind their backs. It was just like, the fight choreography in that series was like, what? But in this, even one or two episodes behind, the rooftop scene, that fight scene with everybody was really, really great. It felt like a movie. It felt cinematic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the big things. I just feel like the way this series is shot in general, it feels very cinematic.
Yeah.
And, these shows are honestly, especially this one, is one that I would love to one day get to watch. I think they ought to show these on the big screen at some point.
Yeah.
But, I don't know if that'll ever happen. But I think it would play very well on the big screen.
Yeah.
What did y'all think about? I think you get a lot of stuff with Clint. I guess let's talk Clint and Qazi, their fight in 30 Rock first. Because a lot of people are kind of bent out of shape about that fight. Because because Qazi shouldn't have been able to fight Clint.
No.
And I think because I'm going to ask you the same question in a minute regarding Qazi and fighting Maya.
Yep.
Where people are talking about, well, Maya shouldn't have been able to do this or that. And they said the same thing when she fought Clint in the prior episode, where I felt like, Clint had no intention of being there to hurt or kill anyone in that fight. Right. And I kind of feel like that's been Clint through this whole series. When he has had to fight,
he's pulling
his punches.
Right. Yeah.
And it kind of calls back to the same thing Natasha told him when they were, when he had to fight Natasha in Civil War, and she's finally like, quit pulling your punches. And,
right.
Yeah.
Well, we get into a bigger issue. trying to figure out how to say what I'm going to say and set up what I'm going to say, because Kate and Kingpin have a fight also. So, but here's my thing: is I don't want to get into the mode of trying to rationalize how this person held their own against this one, or why this one beat that one, and trying to rationalize it in world. It's a TV show.
Mm.
We're all familiar with the term power leveling, right?
Yeah.
Like it's done to make it interesting.
Sure.
And I will say that anybody who thinks Qazi wouldn't be able to hold his own against Clint, we have just spent most of this episode talking about how Clint's a normal guy. Yeah, he's trained, but Qazi's lived this life, right? He's worked for Kingpin as a member of the Tracksuit Mafia forever. And if you know the character, that Qazi's based on from the comics, he's absolutely an even match for Clint.
Yeah.
So, again, not trying to rationalize anything that happens in world in this show, because you just got to make it interesting. But the idea that you're going to get upset because Qazi held his own against Clint is ridiculous.
Right.
You know, years ago, Stan Lee, when he was alive, was asked the question, who would win in a fight, X character or Y character? And he's like, it depends on the writer.
Right, whoever the writer wants.
Right, whoever the writer wants.
Yeah.
So I think that's a, great point, Daniel.
Do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I think that's a boring debate. I really do. It's like, do you want to be like, okay, should Hawkeye hold his own against Thor? Maybe not. But like, should this gangster hold his own against this assassin? I mean, like, that conversation gets boring real fast as far as I'm concerned. So
yeah. Well, to me, it was an unwillingness to admit that these new characters are,
imposing in their own
they
right.
are imposing in their
Right,
own right. They're threatening in their own right. They're, especially Qazi, he's an assassin.
Yeah.
So why are people upset that Echo beat Qazi?
People were more upset that Echo kind of bested Clint there, but in their fight in the prior episode.
Okay. Does they not watching the show?
I don't know, but I mean, I specifically
it's the internet.
Yeah,
Just let it go.
and I didn't actually. This actually wasn't the trail I was necessarily looking to go down with the question. I wanted to discuss the fight between Clint and Qazi. And part of that is because people do have a problem with it. I don't really care that people have a problem with it. I just want to talk about the scene.
Is that the fight inside the the construction area when they first started? I mean, I thought it started well. I think Clint used, his environment to his advantage. I think there were some really great moments where Qazi got his butt kicked. There were some flips there that were really impressive. Again, fight choreography is really great. Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of Clint again, holding back, and he doesn't want to sit there and fight. He's got to go and find Kate, So it was almost like, all right, I'm going to punch you. Please stay down. I got to go this way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now the other fight, and I like that he's kind of joking in that one, and it parallels the fight with Elena and Kate. Who are, Elena doesn't want to hurt Kate. I mean, they've made that clear. I mean, she's even like, Kate says, "Oh, let's go get drinks," and she's like, "Okay, but I got to kill him first." Like, I love that Kate pulls a Buddy the Elf on the elevator and lights up all the buttons.
Yeah. They're both very charming. Very.
They are. It's a really fun scene. I love So I kind of want to know what Rode thinks about this, being a camera guy, being a film guy. Like, the choreography is great, but we've done these shots with Elena going out the window all series, and I love that this time the camera follows her through the wall and out the window.
I love it. Yeah. I think they first, I'm trying to think of the movie that they first did that on. I think it was one of the Bourne Supremacy movies.
Probably.
They had, I'm watching a trailer. Yeah, I'm watching a trailer. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Did that camera guy just jump right behind him? Yeah, those are some good shots.
What did y'all think about Kate going out the window?
It looked funny at the bottom. The kicking and
it was
not
Yeah.
convincing.
Yeah.
it was it was a
I
good
think-
moment. I mean, that's her, all of a sudden being like, if I'm going to do this, I really got to do this.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
Kate in over her head, but going head first anyway.
And those are that's one of the scenes that that reminds me periodically that I'm watching a comic book movie and not like a drama or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to have fun with it. Otherwise, what's the point of these shows?
And there were several times in this that it was like, with the balloon arrow and it's like, okay, we're not like totally afraid to do cheesy things.
Yeah.
They definitely went in for more cheesy than they typically would in a movie, I think.
Yes, Dave, they are doing an Echo show, and we will actually, towards the end of this, talk about that theory on Kingpin returning for that.
And then you have to change your banner somehow. Kingpin
Somehow Kingpin returned.
He's a fast typer. He'll do it.
So Clint goes out the window next into the 30 Rock Christmas tree.
Real fast, I wanted to ask you guys.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is this series is a little bit more grounded in reality versus something like The Mandalorian. But does anybody know if this or any of this was shot in the volume technology? I don't really think it needed to be, though. Really.
I don't think it needed to be, and I didn't feel like it at all. And I don't know what scenes, if they had, what they would have done, unless the
windows, when you jump out the windows, there's a screen behind them, and they just something like that. I mean, that's the only
right. And maybe some of the fight scene on the ice rink.
Yeah.
There was some pretty wild stuff there. Maybe, but I didn't hear anything about this when using the volume.
Right.
No, I don't think so.
Sorry, that's just my production brain going.
Yeah.
So from there, Clint's in the tree.
That took a little longer than I wanted it to.
Clint just being stuck in the tree.
Sick in the tree and meeting an owl, and what's with the owl?
Well, apparently the owl is a reference to an actual owl that was in the tree last year. What you got, Daniel?
No, go ahead. Finish your thought first.
I was going to say there was an owl that took up residence either last year or the year before in the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree, and they named him Rocky. I don't know if it's a nod to that or if there's something else there.
Oh, well, I was going to go way much farther down the geek rabbit hole with that.
That's shocking.
Called Owl, which you can't see it from here, but his first appearance is on my wall. But he actually plays a role in the Matt Fraction, David Aha series. So I kind of got that reference from it.
Okay.
Brain goes there first. But you're probably right, Andrew. That's why I put my hand down. Because
I'll go even deeper. It is the MCU's version of the Convor. Think about it.
There we go. You heard it here first, folks.
Yep.
Yeah, the whole owl thing.
Right. So once we're out of the tree, we really move into.
Okay, so wait a second, just for 1 second. Why do we have to shoot the tree? I mean, can't he just climb down the tree? It's not that hard to do.
Yeah.
You could, I guess. It's a pretty big tree.
it doesn't, it doesn't look as good on film.
But if we shoot it and it falls over, you could kill him if it falls the wrong direction. Like logistically, it would just be better to climb down the tree. All I'm saying.
Yeah, that was a little too convoluted for my taste. I'm like, it's got branches. You can just kind of almost like a ladder.
Maybe having climbed up and down trees, it's not.
I'm gonna tell you this too. Look, you think one of those evergreen trees like that's probably a big ass fir tree or something. There's so many branches on it that it gets too crowded to be able to climb down. And Andrew's kind of grinning because he knows what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You ever try to climb one of them things?
Yeah.
And down it? There's
It's
so
hard.
many branches on it, you don't know where to put your feet. And then your
Needles.
arms get tangled up.
Needles and sap.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's better to just shoot it down.
Just shoot it down.
No, I'm with Marisha. My first thought was, and I'm with Marisha and Rose, because Rose said it lasted longer than he wanted to. They pulled that gag a little too long. It still worked, but they pulled it a little too long. And Marisha, they could have climbed down, because every time the camera would go back to Clint and it's stuck in that tree, I'm thinking to myself, why isn't he climbing down yet?
Yeah, they kind of went to him. They kind of went back to him. If they had just like Clint's in the tree, but we're doing this right now,
yeah,
then it would have been fine. It's because they keep cutting back to Clint in the tree that makes it feel a little long.
they left that gag as long as they could.
So one other thing kind of happens, and part of this is because Kate is still finishing a scene, so we've got to have him doing something, I guess. So Kate's at the bottom of the building. She is about to get run over by a tracksuit bro, and in comes Jack Duquesne.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that, and I don't know if we'll ever see Jack again. But I love, he is the swordsman. But I get the impression that this is his origin story. Like, this is Jack just became the swordsman. Like, he's trained, he knows what he's doing with the sword, but he's way too giddy to finally be, like, actually
Stabbing
people with his sword. Like, the whole thing where he's like, okay, Jack, this is your moment.
Yes.
I love how big the personality is. I love how cheesy the personality is.
I mean, he's straight up Errol Flynn and like 1936 Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like straight up on guard. He's got the.
He's like if Jim Carrey played Errol Flynn. It's just. But we talked about that last week too. That's always been a campy character. So I like the fact that they play him like with the bad dad jokes and just being so aloof. I've never worked a day in my life.
Yes.
It was a defense to something. And then, he's just. So I do actually like the way that he was almost comic relief to a point sometimes, but they did it where there was some mystery built around whether or not he was really the villain.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we questioned up until this episode whether, you don't know for a fact till you hear Eleanor tell Kingpin, my fiance's taking the fall for it. And you're like, okay, he was just a patsy. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So he's so aloof, just disconnected from what's really going on in the world that it's almost like, he just accidentally starts helping Kate. Like he doesn't even know what he's doing. And it's great.
Yeah. He was so charming at the beginning that I wanted to like him, but I wasn't sure that I can trust him yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it was like, oh, okay, yeah, he's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really hope we do somewhere along the way see more of Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know where he fits in. I don't know where you use him.
Funny.
He fits into Clint's backstory, not in the show, obviously, but. Like it would make sense to see them do some sort of adaptation of Jack and Clint together if we do get Jeremy Renner back.
Yeah, it just kind of depends on what they want to do with him because he's not really the same character. He's not the comic book character. He's very loosely based on the comic book character.
Right. Except for kind of that swashbuckling personality.
Oh yeah, I mean.
And it is kind of a campy character just because of what it is. It's actually not campy on purpose. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you'd done this 20 years ago, you would have used Cary Elwes for this role.
Oh yeah.
You still could have used Cary Elwes for this role. He's about the same
you could
age.
have.
Actually, I was about to say he's probably about the same age as the actor they did.
Maybe.
Okay, so now we need to see Cary Elwes do something in the MCU, right?
Right, yeah.
Oh, maybe they can have like a whole brigade of like clueless English aristocrats who run around with swords doling out vigilante justice. This is what I want to
now you're pigeonholing Cary Elwes. He's more than Robin Hood in tights, Marisha.
No, he's hilarious. He's a great actor.
he's also the Dread Pirate.
It's true. I'm just saying.
All right. So once Clint,
Same character.
so once Clint is out of the tree, we really roll into our third act. We really get into the final big battle. It's big. There's a lot going on. We have one big showdown where we get our kind of Avengers-esque moment. That the fighting back to back with Kate and Hawkeye, which was really kind of what the whole show, the moment the show was building towards, right?
Yeah.
Where Kate's an Avenger now.
I enjoyed that payoff. I really did.
Yeah.
Especially when they did that shot, Marisha, that you're talking about, the swooping shot around them and they're doing their thing. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and all that really kind of felt like a callback to the first team up of the Avengers. So I did enjoy that. But what did y'all think? I mean, because we have that big fight, and then everybody goes and we have our one-on-one fights. We have 3 different one-on-one fights going down at the same time.
Right.
This, I think, is where I think the pacing might be a little off, because it reminded me of the end of Phantom Menace, when there were too many things happening and they'd go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I really wanted to see, a little bit more of a complete, fight with Kingpin and Kate, because they would do one thing and all of a sudden they'd cut back to something else. I'm like, oh, I want to see what happens next. Yeah. I think too much was going on at the end there.
Daniel, you were trying to say something?
No, what Rose was talking about didn't really bother me. Like, I think that kind of worked. But Kate and Hawkeye together, I think I actually enjoyed that more as far as the fighting part of it than any of the 3 individual fights we got later. I like some of the individual moments we got.
And I think the other 3 fights,
characters,
yeah,
right. But
and I think those are about the moments.
But I am wondering if I'm the only one who felt sorry for the guys in the van that got drunk and picked up by the bird.
No.
Like, I sort of went, well, that's sort of morbid.
It was horrible.
Well, that was the payoff for the owl, I guess.
But you have this moment, y'all. And you've got the subtitles for that say "children screaming."
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And my kids are just like rolling on the ground laughing.
Yeah.
I
actually thought that shot with the truck on the ice before the owl picked them up, I thought the dude bros were gonna run out, almost like brownies from Willow, like.
Yeah.
That would have been good too.
But okay, owl.
Yeah. Death by Pimtech is sort of terrifying, right?
Or death by owl, made possible by Pimtech. Even worse.
So, well, I guess one at a time, because I feel like the individual fights are more about what is said during those fights than than anything else.
Moments.
So I guess first, Qazi and Maya, which is I think that's the origin moment for that's where we're
right.
Kind of this character is becoming her own person, and that's the character we're going to see going forward in her series.
Right.
So what did y'all think about her moment between her and Qazi? Because some people had some confusion about that moment, weren't sure how they were supposed to feel about that moment as far as who Maya and Qazi are really supposed to be to each other. I mean, the goal, let's just me and you get out of here and leave together line. Some people were not sure what they thought about that. So what did y'all think about it?
The way I got that was, or what I got out of that was, I think Qazi and Maya kind of leaned on Qazi like her whole life and being a part of this organization, right? And she I don't know if respect's the right word, but she relied on him. And she cared about him in that way. And it's still that moment of that she knows he's partly responsible for her father's death, but she doesn't want, she wants to be able to forgive him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they had been so close, because she had relied on him so much. There's this person she wanted, needed him to be, to the point that she wants to be able to forgive him. And that's what that part of that conversation was about. And of course, when Qazi goes off, when he takes that farther, and that just makes him irredeemable at that point, and things play out from there.
I always kind of felt like they had a thing. Like, if they weren't romantically involved, they at least had some kind of
It was kind of a
really
brother-sister.
personal dynamic.
See, that's what I took from it, was a
It's kind of a
sibling
brother-sister.
sort of thing.
I mean, like I said, they're clearly very close, whether they're romantically involved or whether they just, have a close platonic relationship. Like,
he
she
was like
clearly
the big
loves
brother.
him.
Yeah.
And I think that he loves her, but just not as much as he loves himself, which is the saddest thing about all of that. Because you get the feeling like he really cares about her, and he almost loves her enough.
Well,
I think he's blinded
Give
by
it up.
his loyalty to the big boss more than his loyalty to her.
I think it's more of him being enthralled with the position he thinks he deserves and that he should have. She's jealous of where King and the esteem Kingpin holds her instead of him. But as far as their relationship goes, that was the way, I think is a good way to put it. In her eyes, he was like the big brother. And we see some moments in that show where he does kind of act that way towards her.
Sure, yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's where
I
all
didn't-
that dynamic comes in.
Yeah, I didn't really see a romantic type relationship.
No.
It was more of a sibling. You, Marisha, you shipper.
So, knowing that we're doing an Echo series, were y'all surprised that they killed Qazi off?
Yeah, I was actually.
Yeah, that was probably, for me, the most shocking moment of the episode. I was like, don't they need this guy? I mean, I have no idea where they're headed, and we're going to get there in just a second, where they're going with this Echo series, based on how this all plays out. But next, let's go for let's talk about Elena and Clint's fight, because this is really, I kind of feel.
Tearjerker fight?
Do what?
The tearjerker fight?
It is, and it's kind of the heart of what we've been building to with Elena, what we've been waiting for with her character. That's going to, I think, play a big role for her down the road, which is part of why I think Clint's not done playing this role, because I think that they've built this moment where, when whatever they're setting up, whether it be Thunderbolts or Dark Avengers or whatever it is, that Clint is the one that will be able to call her back from the brink before she crosses the line.
And Clint does have a history with the Thunderbolts, so that would be a good tie-in.
I mean, he's been a Thunderbolt and a Dark Avenger, right?
Well, he's yeah, and he's battled Thunderbolts, and it is a back and forth kind of deal, but he's had some storylines intertwined with those characters.
But this is the number one reason why I think Clint's not done. I do think there's some other things that I think Clint is going to play an important role in. But, I mean, what did y'all think? Because, I mean, this fight, I mean, the fight's fine. There's not much to it. It's mostly him just almost letting her just work out aggression on him. And him trying to get his point across.
There's something, though, that was slightly off about the fight, and I don't know if it was the fight or the not relationship, but the explanation that they were trying to get to, or Clint's explanation, and her inability to see what Black Widow did. I mean, somebody must have told her, so it's not like she just got back from the blip, right?
You're right.
Somebody must have told her what happened, especially with Black Widow. So there was kind of like a weird thing that to me just didn't fit with the fight and the dialogue back and forth between the characters that was not satisfying to me. Going into that fight, I don't know what it was.
Well, but how many people in the general public are going to know the details of what happened?
Yeah, but
or nobody there, nobody came back but Clint.
But she's not really part of the general public. I'm pretty sure she knows like people that know what happened.
But Val clearly gave her some.
Go ahead.
Val clearly gave a spun version of what happened, right? We saw that at the end of Black Widow. Her line is, "How would you like a stab at the man who's responsible for your sister's death?" Like, she's, she tells her own version of events.
I think there's a lot of things going on based on the things that Yelena says in this fight, especially when she says, "If I had been here, I could have stopped her."
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. She blames herself.
Yeah.
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 And she's taking it out on Clint.
Right, on some level, that she's looking for someone to blame.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, I've seen people who have had really just unbelievable tragedies in their lives, and they've got to blame somebody. It can't just be an accident. It can't just be a tragedy. It's got to be somebody's fault. Like, somebody's got to be accountable for this. It's got to be somebody's fault.
Yeah.
They have to be able to direct their anger somewhere.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, she does have some room to have that doubt, because again, nobody came back from Vormir but Clint. So it's whatever anybody else in the world believes, Clint's the only one who knows what really happened. So it's basically just his word. Is all anybody's got to go on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love the moment. I mean, do y'all have any other thoughts on that moment where she does finally, at least accepts it to the extent of deciding not to kill Clint, which we'll see how that plays out. I mean, clearly Val wanted her to kill Clint.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
I think Val just wanted her to kill Clint because I think Val was really just her contact from Eleanor hiring her to kill Clint. I don't know that Val had any personal vendetta in it or gives a shit whether Yelena managed to kill Clint or not. That was just a job. Or
if it's just a manipulative way to try to get on the right side of this person you want to come work for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or if it may just be another way that she's just kind of trying to get Yelena under her control.
Sure.
Because, eventually she's going to figure out that this is somebody her sister loved.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so the fact that she's killed him is going to be something that she's going to have to deal with. And, Val kind of seems to deal in some pretty twisted currency. And I don't think she's above manufacturing that situation just so she can exploit it later.
All right, so let's talk about the third fight. This is Kingpin and Kate. Less of a fight and more of Kingpin swatting her away like an insect.
Yeah.
Valiant effort by Kate, but I saw Dave's earlier comment that they made Kingpin kind of superpowered. I don't know if it was superpowered, but Andrew, I think you hit it right on the head. It's almost like he was swatting a fly. I think, even in the comic books, he's a character with great strength. He's big. He's a brute. okay, that there might have been some throws and some punches that might have been a little over the top, but I think it wasn't too away from Kingpin as a character. Especially with what he was dealing with.
And she hits him with 2 arrows, though. Aren't vital organs organs, even if you're macho?
Yeah, and I don't know where they're going to go with that. I mean, we do have a scene. I mean, in Daredevil, like his clothes are all bulletproof, right?
That's true.
Right.
So I don't know if there's that. I mean, it's the ripping the car door, not just off the hinge. The car door is closed, so he rips the hinges and the latch off.
Right.
I mean, we are frankly playing in a sandbox here where he could be juiced, right?
Sure.
Like he could have had the super soldier serum.
Maybe. But again, shooting news in Chicago, I've seen a lot of people on PCP, and there's that aspect of things too. So
It doesn't have to be super soldier serum, huh?
right.
There's
Just good
some
old
more,
Chicago PCP. We'll do it.
there's some more humdrum things, huh?
So, I mean, do y'all have any thoughts on that? I mean, is this just Kingpin? Is this just the character he always was, where he's kind of...
So, yeah.
Yeah.
We always end up seeing Kingpin do something where it's like borderline superhuman.
Right.
And I think that's one of the aspects that makes him so terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. You
You
never
know?
know. Like I said, D'Onofrio in the Daredevil show always played him with that little bit of his mind ain't quite right, unhingedness. So you never knew what he was going to do.
But I'm okay with that.
I saw a lot of people upset. Like Kate shouldn't have been able to beat Kingpin. Like she didn't hold her own. She got her.
She got her butt kicked
and it was
at every turn.
Yeah,
I mean, she finally.
Yeah, somebody's like, I watched Kingpin nearly kill Daredevil with his bare hand, and Kate manages to beat him with a coin flip. Hawkeye taught her. Well,
but
it was an explosion it caused.
Yeah.
Like it took an explosion just to take a pass aim enough for her to get away.
And I think that's more of Kate being a little smarter than Kingpin. Obviously using her environment to kind of win that battle. And win the battle, not the war, obviously. But I think that's one of the things that makes Kingpin so great. You are afraid of him because he is not like all the way there. What is he gonna do next? Those are the kind of characters that really keeps you on your toes and really, enjoy their maniacal way of being. And Kingpin, I mean, D'Onofrio plays it off really, really well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's one that goes at things with brute strength, not with calculation. He doesn't calculate, he just goes, goes in guns blazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Chantel's got a comment about his voice. And, especially in Daredevil, he, sometimes he changes that voice and it's more of like a demon and it just freaks you out, man. Yeah, and I love that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just finish up with Kingpin. She does get the best of him. I love the callback to it's not like they set it all up. I mean, you get the callback to the coin flip. I love that she uses his cufflink. We set it up with the arrows, the one that was too dangerous. That's the one that blows him up. The one, I mean, we've dealt with some pretty dangerous arrows up to this point in this episode, and Clint's like, no, this is the one that's too dangerous. And that's the one that stops Kingpin, and so I don't see being upset with that.
Which is also set up by the car chase scene, like the third episode, where she goes, there are arrows more dangerous than that.
So kind of wrapping, before we finish Kate's story, let's finish Kingpin and Maya for this. Kingpin does survive the explosion. He gets up, he walks off. Truster Bro truck pulls up, which I'm assuming he thinks at this point is going to be Qazi. And it's Maya. What do we think about the end of this with Kingpin? And how does the way that played out. First of all, what do we think happened, and how does that make us feel about the Echo series?
Well, we've already spoken in the comments.
Yeah, I know.
I'm very excited for what it sets up for the Echo series. I fully expect this conflict between her and Kingpin to be the center of that series.
Yeah.
I expect the Daredevil appearance. I do not want it to become Daredevil season 4, and like some people have said it's going to be. We need to focus on Echo. Just let her have her own show. If they want a Daredevil appearance, that makes sense. I'm excited for things it sets up. Is her going off on her own? Completely, like Kingpin's not going to take, because obviously we all believe he survived the gunshot, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he does not take that kind of slight lightly. So it's going to set up some very good things for the Echo series.
Yeah. Somebody said, Shanti said, I think if you didn't see it, it didn't happen. He's alive. But yeah, Dave said you don't bring back an actor of his caliber just to kill him off at the end there. So right. I think he's alive.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think he's alive. I mean, they pull out for a reason. Now you do get a gunshot and a thud.
I didn't hear the thud.
Yeah, there's a gunshot and a definite thud. I don't know if they're going the route where he's going to come back either blind or blind in one eye, or.
Well, I wasn't going to say that.
I mean, yeah, but it's everywhere out there. I mean, that was what everybody went for, especially when right before the gunshot, he says, sometimes family doesn't see eye to eye.
But
So
that confrontation is very similar to their confrontation in the comics, and the blindness is the result of that confrontation. I don't know. We don't know if they're going that way in the show, but it would make sense.
I think they'll put their own twist on it, but we'll see. I guess. I mean, at this point, I don't even know when to expect that series. I would assume 2023. But coming back to kind of Kate's end, the end of the story as we wrap up, Kate's conversation with her mom. This is my one gripe about the show, really, in general, is I feel like there was some stuff regarding Eleanor that may have been left on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, they kind of try to put it all up there in one big exposition dump at the end.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe it is what we got. Maybe that's all there is to it. Maybe she's not a bigger villain. Maybe it was just that she was kind of under the thumb of Kingpin after her husband's death, and there's not more to it. There was a lot of speculation that she was, a certain other character there. And, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's it. She's kind of a dark, cold character, though. When she's pissed off at Kate tries to tell her she loves her, and she just leaves, and that's it. Kate's family, for all practical purposes at this point, Kate has no family other than Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads into the end here, and that kind of leads me to why I believe that Clint is ultimately not done. I think Clint is not done mentoring Kate. And I think there's another person in the Barton household who may also play a role in mentoring Kate. Lucky?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, Lucky. I mean, we kind of knew. I mean, we've been speculating on this for weeks that we
underwhelming though.
I mean, I don't think it had to be a big thing. I'm fine with it being a simple nod to the fact that, yes, we've been speculating all along. There's way more to Laura than we ever thought there was. We get confirmation she is Agent 19. She is, I mean, they didn't say Mockingbird, but that's Mockingbird. And I don't see why they would change that at this juncture, why they would have her be Agent 19 but not Mockingbird.
So we are though completely erasing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show from the canon, right? At the same time, when we've got a show where we're trying to to integrate Netflix to be sort of canon, are we going to ignore we already had a Mockingbird with the whole storyline recently?
So I have a theory on the Agents of Shield thing that I've been kind of thinking about in relation to that. I think that Phil Coulson being brought back to life was a Nexus event. And I don't know why you don't. I mean, it's like you love this stuff, but you don't like talking about it. I mean,
no, but because I feel like you.
It's not canon. It's not canon. There's nothing about that.
You're going
there's
out
nothing.
Of your way to just make it all fit.
But yeah, at this point, it does, right? I mean, Sony is connected to the MCU. Everything Sony's ever done is connected to the MCU now. So why wouldn't we assume the same thing based on what Kevin Feige has said about Shield and the people that love that show? Why wouldn't we assume?
Just call everything we saw on Agents of Shield an alternate timeline.
Yes.
Okay.
Because at this point, like there's too many things. Either it is not canon at all, that it all just goes in the bin as something completely separate, or it's an alternate universe, because they've had too many differing things, including the Darkhold and WandaVision, because they did. I mean because they did the Darkhold in Agents of Shield. There's too many things that are different for it to work any other way.
I mean, a Mockingbird could also be a moniker.
Not to mention
like 007.
Like 007, yeah.
Not to mention, I think that even if Phil Coulson being brought back to life is not the Nexus event, when they get in Agents of Shield, I don't know if you've seen Agents of Shield, but they go back in time and basically create a new timeline. So the timeline they came forward to, the blip never happened. Like if you finished the series, so
right,
it doesn't work. Like this I think is kind of, maybe the last nail in the coffin, but I think that they've really already pushed that too far to the side to make it canon as far as the prime timeline.
I think we're just forgetting Agents of Shield even happened. And I'm okay with that. The show existed, we enjoyed it, it was what it was. It doesn't have to be part of the canon at this point. It really doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Did they actually mention Agent 19?
So when she turns over the watch in that final scene, the 19 is on the shield.
Okay, but to me that doesn't mean that it's her watch. It's just maybe.
Oh no! He tells her. He says, "Yeah, keep better track of your stuff." So I'm pretty sure that was a confirmation that she's Agent 19. Like but
I still never picked up on what the big deal about the watch was. Clint said it could lead to her, but they never told us how.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know anything about the watch or what it can do, or
it's a MacGuffin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think it matters. I think it was just an interesting. It's a plot device. It really doesn't play into the major story. It basically just gives us a little more about who Laura and Clint are.
Right.
That there's more.
But there's got to be something more though, because I mean, after decades, do we really think that MCU is just going to throw something in there and forget about it?
No, it comes back.
No, which is why I think that what we've done here is I think Clint's coming back. I think we've, at this point, built a team.
I would like a better name or Bobby, though.
And, I mean, we could still do Bobby Morse as a Mockingbird in the MCU. I mean, we're constantly, at this point, bringing in new characters to pick up old mantles. So, I have no problem. And I mean, I loved Adrian Pilecki as Mockingbird. It really sucked the way they were written out of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because basically they were written out, her and the other, I can't even think of the other character's name, were written out to get their own show, and then the other show got canceled.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Suck.
So, but I mean that pretty much brings us. I mean, what did y'all think about the end here with, I thought it was a good ending. I mean, there's not that much there. There's Clint makes it home for Christmas, which was that was the goal. That was
I think it was really nice. It was very Christmassy. It was it's perfect for the season, perfect for the series. It gave us an insight to Clint's home life, and it brought in one more or two more family members. If you're going to talk Lucky, I think it's let's back up a little bit, because I really in my head canon for Lucky behind the scenes is that the production somehow found this dog in a shelter with one missing eye and made him a star, and I think that is commendable. I love when people do that, because I love animals, and it's fantastic. I love it.
That would be awesome. I'm sure that information is out there somewhere.
Yeah, I'm gonna look for it.
I think the injured eye was CGI.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Way to ruin things for people, Marisha.
Sorry. No, he said he was going to look it up. No, you don't have to.
It would be cool if they found a dog with the injured eye,
Right.
But I'm pretty sure it was CGI, because that dog looked too much like the dog from the comic books.
Yeah. and whether Clint comes back or not, one of the things I do appreciate, I mean, we've got other characters that are going to step in to fill these voids with Iron Man, and I mean, I guess to an extent that Cap did get to pass the mantle himself. But then then you do the whole series where he gives it up and has to earn it back, has to fight to get it back. But I like this one. I like this ending. I like Clint actually passing the mantle himself. All right, so did I skip over anything anybody wants to talk about before we finish up? And Ro's going to do a musical number for us and save the city. Here, Ro hit that high note.
I know, right? Didn't think I had it in me, huh? I think overall, I think this series was great. It probably, I didn't know where I was going to rank this from all the rest of them, but it's pretty up there for me. I really enjoyed it. Not knowing really, like I said, not knowing really what I was going to expect, but it was quite delightful.
It's my favorite. I put this at the top of the MCU series. And, which means that I would pretty much put this as my number 2 comic book TV series out there, just behind Daredevil.
Very nice. Yeah.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but I got to give that some more thought. At this point, I do think it's my favorite. It's WandaVision, though. They're close. They're really close.
I like WandaVision.
I do really like WandaVision. I mean, I like Loki. I like both those series a lot. But I think this one just tells a more concise story. It's
way
better.
More straightforward.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Marish?
I mean, I don't like it better than, it's not my favorite MCU series, but I had no expectations for this show going in. I just really didn't. And so the fact that it turned out to be really solid was like a real just bonus for me. Yeah, WandaVision is still my favorite. Like that's not going anywhere anytime soon. Oh, look, we got a new friend in the chat. Just in time to be almost done.
What's up, Alan?
Oh, Alan's here.
Yeah.
You're late.
Yes, alas.
You're done. I cried.
I don't think I cried. I sure enough cried at Spider-Man, but I didn't cry for this one. Good job, Marisha.
Daniel, have you seen Spider-Man yet?
No, but I can't avoid spoilers. I know what happened. Life got in the way. I'm sorry. I'm a bad fan. The only reason I watch the new Matrix movie is because I have HBO Max anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. But no, it was great, and it was such a fun thing to do over the holidays. It was a great series to do. You know, watch Home Alone, watch Hawkeye, and I think it'll be one of those things we'll probably revisit this time of year again.
Yeah,
Which is always fun. It's always fun to have Christmas things to watch that aren't Elf.
but no, I love the show. I mean, this one is, I think going forward will probably be the most rewatchable of the series.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because Dave said it in the chat. It's the most complete show from beginning to end. It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty tight.
I really love this show. I hate that it's over. I hope that we get an announcement. It was a little disappointing. We didn't, usually at the end of these movies or shows, we get a, so and so will return in.
Right.
We didn't get it. So they kind of left us hanging on when either of those characters will come back. Honestly, if Jeremy Renner will be back at all, and when we'll see Kate Bishop again.
Yeah, we just know that Doctor Strange is going to be back, right?
Right. But I mean, it's just been a fantastic year for Marvel stuff. I mean, there was a lot of concern, and sort of rightly so. Like, where do you pick up after Infinity War and Endgame? Which are the two biggest movies on the planet. Where do you go from there? Do what?
They were the two biggest movies on the planet.
Yeah. Pre-Spider-Man.
No Way Home. The movie made $1 billion in a week, dude.
That's crazy.
It did, but it also had like a 76% fall off from weekend one to weekend two. So it's not gonna
$1 billion in a week.
I know, but it's not gonna supplant the other two. But it did beat them opening weekend. But
And they're saying that it was Marvel's most profitable across the line, even after net profit goes.
Well, yeah, because you don't have all the it's the third one to cross the $1 billion mark, and it doesn't have all the other big names in it.
I mean, yeah.
There's no. I mean, they were paying Robert Downey Jr. a fortune. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were paying him a huge amount up front, and then he was taking another massive percentage off the back end of the earnings.
Right.
It's worth every penny.
Oh, he absolutely was.
The MCU is not the MCU without Robert Downey Jr.
But they're not paying Tobey Maguire the same thing they paid Robert Downey Jr. to appear in a Spider-Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
Tobey was just glad to be able to buy lunch this week.
But it was, I mean, honestly, I mean, we didn't get anything, and we didn't get anything in 2021 Marvel, right? It was just 2020.
No.
It was just a totally dead year, and then we got 9 projects this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, 4 movies and 5 TV series, which is just, they had the movies may not have all hit on all cylinders, but they're not slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, when will this Marvel superhero fatigue end?
The thing is, if they keep telling stories like Spider-Man, No Way Home, and Hawkeye, they can do this forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because that's the thing. And I say this a lot on the show. It's not franchise fatigue. Mm-hmm. It's bad story fatigue.
Right. Absolutely.
Keep making movies driven by good characters.
Good to tell good stories.
Yep.
And the rest will come.
Yes. If you make it, they will come in droves and pay billions of dollars to see it.
Exactly. Exactly. It's not a hard formula.
No.
It really isn't.
No.
And of course, we're also demonstrating why Sony will never sell Spider-Man back to Marvel.
Right?
Yeah.
No, but if they can keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah, if they can keep this up, if the two companies can continue to get along,
it's a win-win.
I mean, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mutually beneficial, for sure.
It is, and that's the thing.
Both studios,
everybody's
fans.
making more money this way.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, I think that's probably a good enough place to wrap it up. So, Ro, thanks for joining us tonight. If you would, let everybody know where they can find you.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I always feel home here at the Science Fictionary with you guys. Thank you very much.
Should.
So yeah, we're. If you guys want to catch any deep dives, any quick cuts, and Star Wars and movie reviews, we are found over at Scarev Podcast. Somehow, Scarev Podcast has returned. No, we didn't go anywhere, but Shanti and I are over there talking. Brad will join us from time to time. We're going to be doing our Sunday review of the Book of Boba Fett every Sunday night, and open invite to you, Andrew. So thank you very much. We're gonna looking forward to Wednesday. It is Book of Boba Fett week, so we're gonna start watching that, and then having our live show on YouTube on Sunday nights at 8 o'clock this Sunday, and sometimes 7 o'clock, because I want to try to get Brad in to talk about it as well. So
awesome.
we'll be doing that.
Sweet.
All right, Daniel.
I am Dan C. Peeps on Twitter.
That's it.
Marissa.
You can find me on Instagram. I am princesses_and_padawans, and I am theoretically P Padawans on Twitter. So once every couple of months, you can catch me over there.
All right, you can find me running the Twitter account for this show at sci_fictionary. You can drop us a line at the sciencefictionary@gmail.com, and you can find our podcast anywhere that you would want to listen to a podcast. You can also find us, as well as the rest of the Red 5 Podcast Network, at red5network.com and at Red 5 Network on Twitter.
Check them out.
Yes.
All right,
Awesome.
and until next time, everybody have a good night, and we will see you soon.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
This podcast is part of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts, visit red5network.com.